It wouldn't be the same if you weren't here without your signature red.
Oh, really?
Today it was just doing its own little thing.
It's easier to
I put a brand new battery in, worked at home, I got here, I'm walking away and Brooke says, did you want your rear tailgate open? I'm like, no. So I went and closed it.
That was kind of one of the easy things about
Ghost.
the Army.
Yeah, that's what I
You knew what you
thought.
were gonna win.
Ghost. You also knew right when you were going to get up.
You knew when you were gonna get up. Yes.
Not up to you.
Didn't matter how long you slept.
And turn it to run. And
That's all that mattered.
button and the unlock at the same time.
Oh,
So the panic button is inside the ignition. So how do you do that? I must have had the wrong YouTube video for that.
That was the year after.
I must have been. Because you know that remote start this time of year? So nice.
Oh, yes. Yes, absolutely. Use it all the time.
Especially to clear out, you know, the defrost comes on, the windows clear off, the car's,
Somewhat toasty.
yeah.
You know, you can extend the range of it. Have you heard about that? By sticking it up to your chin? Yeah, it's a real thing. You-
Brain cancer? or
No? No? You just you gotta make sure it touches your jawbone.
Anywhere on your head, you can do your temple.
On
or
your, yeah,
it'll go like over twice as far.
Makes you an antenna.
it extends the
Yeah.
range.
It makes you an
It
antenna.
makes you an antenna.
That's scary.
So, depending on how far you are from your car, you know.
Keep in mind what powers that little thing is barely a little watch battery. I mean, how much can that do?
Yeah.
True. True.
Yeah, I could never trigger mine from inside of work.
Yeah.
I'd always have to like be halfway out in the parking lot to do it until I caught wind of that trick one time. I'm like, oh, this is just a bunch of hogwash. And then I tried it. I'm like, I don't have to go out the door now.
she's still trying to find it. No, we're doing it in between the two. She's got a memory card, she's erasing it. It's Word, but it was just that one.
Oh. Did we excuse him?
I'm drawing a blank.
I don't know if we did. He might be on. I don't get pages anymore. I don't know if he's on a call or not. He might have had something come down. Some emergency. Did we excuse Keith for tonight? You remember? Okay. All right. Yeah, I don't know if he's on a call or what.
Yeah, I put a copy of that plus the two checks. Mom ran down and got the 105 certified check, and Todd said it's supposed to be 405 and 400, so she wrote a personal check for 400. How many times did she apologize?
Oh my God.
I kept saying, no,
wow.
it's ours. You know it's not
Yeah,
apologizing.
you don't need to, yeah.
And she had a little folder, because she loved that piece of property forever, and she had pictures and.
She had pictures of, and she was gonna convince us to try to sell it to her because, like a long time ago, they were taking care of it and.
It was funny, they had figured, because they had talked to some of the other neighbors. Everybody was selling it for $1,000 a foot.
I get a spell here.
And And she said, no, somebody else is gonna bid on it. I want it. So that's the one they're gonna go for. I'm thinking, those people weren't paid what it was worth. You know, our first time at bat with no local match and see how it works. And then we've got 2 more rounds to maybe sweeten the pot from our side if need be. Or hopefully, we're successful without a local match and we can use that $105,000 for additional grant applications. Just looking at the work in project progress, recreation master plan, staff is pitching that we do some serious upgrades to Funnel Field. The parking lots are starting to be substandard, so we're looking at improving those as well as expanding them. Probably remove the playground equipment and go with a fairly decent sized play structure. Resurface the basketball courts. We'll have to take a stronger look at that. Of course, we'll make the application still, but those might be to the point where repair is beyond capability. And the 2 restrooms, Brian and I talked about a single restroom, larger restroom, with some concession and storage capabilities. But due to utility locations currently in the park, Brian's recommendation is just replace the 2 that we have. Might be a little more expensive doing it that way, but if we can get a grant to cover them, we think that's the better way to go. That also provides storage for the west end restroom is used a lot by, well, it's now all Whitehall youth, but that's primarily used for the softball coaches. The east end is used by the Little League coaches. They have different equipment, so it would be nice to kind of have it separated. Because having coached up there for years, sometimes your equipment gets legs, and you don't know who used it last, or where it went to, or who did not put it away. So that's our recommendation. It is due the 19th, which gives us 6 days from today to have everything in place with the state. It's all online. I don't expect any difficulties with the application. We have proof of ownership, which is one of the big things, and then we'll just provide cost estimates as well as obviously a much better schematic as to what we're looking to do. The bathrooms, I've looked at the, I believe it's Rome Tech. They're basically drop-in-place bathrooms. You just have the poured concrete, they come in, they set them down, they hook up the utilities, and you're good to go. The nice advantage is that those are typically built in a factory, where a lot of times it's a little more controlled, a little more exact as far as construction. And they're actually pretty nice facilities, and I've seen a lot of them used, you know, around the state. So that's our pitch. We're looking for council's support to go on ahead and make an application for $105,000 to the Sparks Grant Program for upgrades to Funnel Field. I did look at some of the additions. A dog park could probably be squeezed in the future. A disc golf course could probably be added. You know, it's going to be, which isn't a bad thing. It's not going to be obviously a straight line, because we've got a lot of facilities in the park, but I think that would be an added feature. You're not just throwing, you know, the disc in a straight line. The skate park, actually the skate park could fit easily. The dog park might be a little bit more of a tighter squeeze, because most of the recommendations I've seen is at least an acre. You have a quarter acre for small dogs and another acre for large dogs. But those can obviously be, you know, shrunk and resized based upon the availability of space. So moving forward with this certainly will not interfere with any future additions to Funnel Field.
Does anyone have any questions?
When do we get an answer from an application?
It's actually pretty quick, which is nice, because I know the typical DNR grants, you apply April 1st and you get notification in November. January 2023, they'll be awarded.
Wow.
So that is real quick.
That's quick for the government.
Yep.
I like the fact that it's available without any need for a match. That simplifies things a lot.
It does, but I can only imagine how many applications are gonna get.
Yes.
Because that certainly opens up the door for a lot of communities who struggle to come up with a local match of any kind.
So are we limited to putting in one application? Like we had several
Yes.
different projects?
Yeah, I do believe you are limited to one application. And I think for 405,000, the maximum award is $500,000, and we're kind of creeping up to that amount. I'm sorry, it's $1 million. But I do believe there is just one application per community.
Do we need to approve this tonight if we are to,
Well, the policy of the city council is that we don't have to come and ask for specific action on grant applications if there is no local match.
oh,
Since there is no financial commitment on part of the city, we've done that at the Playhouse and some other smaller grants. So absent any objection from council, staff will just go ahead and make the application, knowing that there is no local match or financial commitment on part of the city.
if you wanted to use some of it to do a dog park at a different park somewhere in the city, could you do that, or would it have to all be spent on Funnel Field?
Probably our best application is to do it all in one location. I think you can do multiple locations, but I think that tends to water down the overall grant application. And they do want to focus on repair and maintenance. They don't exclude new facilities, but they're, it's state money given to them by the feds through, during the COVID pandemic, or as a result of the COVID pandemic. So they're trying to tie it into, due to the excessive use of our facilities during, the pandemic, where there was outside recreational activities allowed, but most of your indoor were prohibited. But that added additional wear and tear on those facilities. So here's a way to fix them.
Okay, thanks.
So do you need a motion or
I do not.
voice vote will work?
Probably just a general, we don't need a roll call or anything, but
Sounds good to me.
Does anyone else have?
I would certainly be in favor of I hope we get the grant, because Funnel Field does need the upgrades, particularly the restrooms. I know the one by the Little League field is, I think they've had porta toilets out there for several years because it's not really even usable. So, yeah, I'd love to see this go through.
Well, like you said, there's bound to be a lot of competition, but by all means, take your shot and we'll hope for the best.
All right.
Free money's free money.
Those in favor of the Michigan Sparks grant, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. All right, we're unanimous. Next up is employee insurance. Scott?
yeah, most of this is informational. Over the years, we have done some significant changes to our healthcare plans. A lot of them have been onerous and burdensome to the employees. So our approach now is going to be if there's a cost increase that is acceptable, then we're not going to stir the pot a whole lot with the employees. I know one year there was, it was a nightmare because we had to do a lot of our own reimbursement applications, which the employees didn't like, and again, it was very, very cumbersome. So with our healthcare benefit administrator, Scott Manager, Alyssa and I sat down with Scott. He always presents our current plan, what it would be if we did nothing, and 3 to 4 options if we, change providers, reduce benefits. So what we're looking at right now is pretty much keeping everything the same. We are switching our disability, long-term disability and life insurance plans for pretty comfortable savings of about $7,000 a year. The most significant one, which if council's okay with this, we'll bring it back for official approval at your next meeting, is that currently we have one retiree who has a fully employed wife, and they are actually taking insurance from her employer and ours. And, you know, typically those insurance providers battle amongst each other as to who's primary and who's secondary. Talking to Scott, most communities that he deals with is they don't allow that. If you retire from the city of Whitehall and you have a second job that offers health insurance, or a spouse whose employer offers health insurance, then you're no longer eligible to take our health insurance. But to soften the blow, if you will, we're looking at a $300 monthly stipend to those employees that no longer qualify for our health insurance, but to help offset the cost of their spouse or their secondary health insurance coverage. The $300 is what we currently provide for, I guess the third tier. Is Alyssa behind me? The third tier of employees, we offer a $300 stipend. That goes into a health savings account so that when they retire, they've got cash. So it's a defined benefit versus carrying their insurance until they reach the Medicare age. Currently, it affects one employee, and it will save us $7,200 in the first year, but we do have, I'm not sure what Alyssa would refer to it as a flood or a wave of employees that are reaching retirement age, where implementing this will be a significant savings for the city. We've probably got 5 or 6 employees that can retire within the next 3 to 4 years. So if you multiply that by the 7,000, then you're looking at some significant savings.
What do we allow, as far as a minimum age for retiring?
Well, that's a good question, because now we have 3 plans. The original older employees can retire at age 55 with 15 years of employment. With the hybrid, I think that's still the same, but then we also, which is a defined benefit and a defined contribution. The newer employees, it's a defined contribution, so they can leave us at, I said that right, defined contribution. They can leave us at any time. It's basically, they can't really draw down on that until they're age 62. But then you've also got Social Security, which, you know, that keeps moving from 62 to 65, 67. I think 72 is now the top end of that. So employees could retire from the city as young as age 55. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't have one employee who takes advantage of that when he hits age 55. But it's always, you know, they gotta sit down and figure out
And
how
with,
soon can they retire.
with our current policy, I mean, we pay for their insurance after,
We cover the employee insurance up until the point where they are Medicare
65.
eligible. We also allow the spouse to be covered with reimbursement from that employee. Correct, Alyssa? She's-
Yeah, I think that's awfully generous. There's very few employers anymore that cover insurance after you retire.
Yep.
I mean, I know I left 4 years early before 65 when I get on Medicare, and I was paying over $1,000 a month
Yep.
for my insurance.
And this is probably the start to get away from that, because we're trying to minimize our OPEB, other post-employment benefits, and this is one of them. If we can, again, with the new hires, when they leave the city of Whitehall, they've got an account, you know, and whatever they invest in will determine how much that grows, but then we're done with them. Where, you know, the first and second tier, we're still liable for those employees for a certain period of time.
Now that third tier, that account is funded with $300 per month while they're employed, so it accumulates.
Yep.
But the 300 mentioned in here is different. That's paid to them per month during the retirement. Is that
Correct.
okay?
Yep.
Is there anything contractually that's defining retirement health care benefits that would have to be complied with, or is this all?
Well, there was some concern by the public works employees. They are our only union, and their union contract obviously supersedes the personnel manual. This will not affect them. their contract is, somewhat vague as far as what we have to provide them.
I hate vague contracts.
It's worked so far. We have to provide a healthcare benefit, as well as dental and optical. But, you know, the specifics are not in the union contract, never have been for us. And it has been great. It's allowed us some flexibility to work with the employees, both union and non-union. But this will not affect them.
Okay, we're not talking about them with this.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, they would still be covered under the current policy where they're covered up to Medicare.
So if someone has other insurance available through their spouse or from another employer, now what happens if that other employer has the same idea that we've had, and they said, oh, since you also have insurance through the city of Whitehall, we're not going to provide it?
Well, they wouldn't anymore. I guess, I don't know, I guess that's a good question, but
I mean, if they're both like retired, if a spouse is retired somewhere else, that person's retired here, and they both, and then who?
well, they would probably have to obtain insurance on their own. Because this would prohibit them from, if they're eligible, it doesn't say if they take it, if they're eligible to get it from another employer.
But if the other employer says they're not
It's-
eligible because
Then
they can
would
get it.
stay- Then they would stay on our insurance,
Okay.
as they will now, again, as eligible.
Mhm.
So you're correct, if both the employers have the same policy where they're not eligible, then they would be eligible to take our insurance.
But you do have to have a minimum of 15 years to get insurance in retirement, right? Is that the way I understand this?
No, you can retire at age 15, I'm sorry, age 15, also the labor law is there. You can retire at age 55 with 15 years of insurance, and you would be covered by the city. And I'm assuming most 55-year-olds would probably go out and get some other gainful employment. But yeah, we could be pinched there if somebody retired at age 55 and did not have eligible insurance from a secondary job or a spouse. They're gonna be on the city's insurance for another 10 years.
But if they retired at 55 and they only had 10 years with the city, then what do they get?
They would get nothing.
Oh, okay.
Because the policy
That's-
does say they have to actively retire from the city of Whitehall. They can't quit and then go work somewhere else and then come back later when they do retire. I mean, they'll be eligible for the retirement benefits, but not for the health benefits.
Okay.
What do you need from us?
Nothing other than, if there's no objections, we'll bring that bottom portion back to council at your next meeting for a resolution. That will provide a $300 stipend in place of insurance for those employees that are eligible from a secondary employee or a spouse for health insurance.
Does anyone have any objections? Okay, I think you have your direction. Next up is climate action plan. Once again,
Yeah, this is one of those things that has just been sitting around, mostly dormant for far too long. And I happened to run into Caroline Glamsey, who is at University of Michigan, majoring in earth and environmental sciences. And I asked her if she'd be interested in doing an internship. Basically, I need somebody who can pick up the ball and keep moving it forward. Caroline was fairly familiar with this. Last summer, she did an internship with Ford Motor Company at a assembly facility on the east side of the state where she was interning for their, their environmental resources. So she was looking at how to reduce waste and reduce, reuse, and what the third one is?
Recycle.
Recycle, thank you. So she's got it, Ford Motor Company obviously is a well-known company. So the idea is to see if council would support bringing in an intern to get this moving along. Again, she would just be picking up the ball and keeping it moving, working with a community group, as well as staff would still provide a lot of support. The $1,000 just kinda came up because we used to do 2 $500 scholarships for student reps that would sit with the city council. So I'm thinking if we've got one person doing a lot more work than the other two, then it should be at least equal pay.
And we didn't have student reps this year, so we saved $1,000 right there.
Since, well, I don't know if we did it in I think we did it in 2020, and we haven't done it since.
We didn't do it,
A couple of years without.
yeah.
You know.
My only thought is, for the amount of work that it sounds like she's probably gonna be taking on, I'm not so sure $1,000 is even fair.
Well, her and I had a chat about that.
I mean, if we were gonna hire a consultant to do this, you know, you'd probably be looking at 5 to 10 grand minimum.
Absolutely. What I told Caroline is, as she gets into it, if she feels that she's putting in a lot more work, we can renegotiate. And obviously, I'd come back to council, but on the initial, she said, yeah, $1,000 would be fine. But she did say, what if I'm really working hard on this? I said, well, that's the whole point. But again, I told her, I said, you know what, if you're getting to where you're putting in way more work than we anticipated, we can renegotiate. And she was fine with that.
Would there be any, I mean, how are we gonna determine the value of her work? And is she going in the right direction?
Well, I think the results will probably speak volumes as far as the value of the work. She will obviously be, she might have to do some Zoom meetings because she's over in Ann Arbor, or do stuff during break and during the summer when she's, you know, more available on this side. But I think the end result, the final plan, is what we're looking for. And if things aren't going well, primarily staff or council or the citizen committee kind of says, this isn't working out well, then we'll let it go. But I think the people involved with Caroline and the project and the plan will be the judge of that. I don't think there's any specific metrics.
Okay.
And we've done that before with Muskegon area first years back when we had 3 of their staff helping with our downtown plan. One wasn't going so well based on the committee's input to staff, and we kind of moved away from there.
Anyone on the council wanna comment?
Yeah. How did this emergency resolution come about and how long is it in effect?
Well, basically there's been, I guess, a worldwide concern about global warming for at least the last decade. And there were a lot of communities that started adopting emergency action plans. And I'm probably not using the right term. And basically our neighbors to the north had adopted an emergency resolution on the environment. And that was brought over, well, actually, I think Montague shared it with all the cities in the county as to whether or not this would be something the city of Whitehall would take up. The emergency action resolution, I can probably pull that right out of the front, be a little more specific. We adopted ours, that's the draft. You trying to beat me to it, Brenda?
No.
Oh. That's another unsigned one. Anyway, I'll go with 2021. We had a small committee, meet with staff and discuss the content of the resolution. And I'll probably still say it, but my voice is getting quieter on this, is my concern is that the resolution calls for the elimination of all greenhouse gases in the city of Whitehall.
Is that possible?
In my opinion, it's not. Even as we sit here, we're emitting, that probably doesn't sound real good, but we are emitting
We're exhaling.
CO2.
Some are emitting more than others.
So I had concern with that, but after trying to massage that and look at something of a lesser level, It came back where the city council passed the zero emissions. What I'm learning is that most communities, whether it's, state, federal, or local, are looking at a net zero. So if we're putting out 100 tons a year, we should reduce it by 100 tons. And that still is gonna be a challenge, because there's, if we're really gonna get involved, there's gonna be some drastic changes to how people manage their property and drive their vehicles in the city. Not that it's not doable. I think Royal Oak, I went to their session at MML down in Muskegon. I think they said that their city operations account for 1.4% of the total greenhouse gas emissions in Royal Oak. Now granted, Royal Oak is a northern suburb of the Detroit metro area, so you can imagine how much more pollution there is in that area. Although we get the benefit of being east of westerly winds, which bring a lot of pollution across the lake. So that's where we're at. We submitted our initial findings to the city council. The next step was develop the full-blown plan, which can go anywhere from War and Peace all the way up to, because this is the city of Ann Arbor's plan. They actually have full-time staff working on it. You've also got smaller plans. I believe this is Burlington, Vermont. So this is a little more doable, a little bit of a smaller community than Ann Arbor. And if any of you know Ann Arbor is very progressive in a lot of the things they do. So it's not surprising to see a plan like that from Ann Arbor. Another plan from Portland and South Portland, Maine. They did a combined one, and that's actually, a pretty small plan. So, I don't know if that answers the question. The city council decided this was a good idea. Staff obviously has to implement the policies of council, and I will take the shot on this one, is that it hasn't been, right on the corner of my desk. That's why I'm asking for some assistance with a very intelligent young lady from a very well-known college with a degree to help move this along.
My problem with it is that they call CO2 a greenhouse gas, but everything that grows on the planet requires CO2 to grow. Every plant requires CO2, and every animal, including every human, breathes out CO2. I don't know how it's a pollutant. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I don't get it. And you could have one volcano that could spew out more CO2 in one blast than has ever been put out by all the SUVs that have ever been created in the world. And it's, this stuff just seems ridiculous to me. It makes absolutely no sense. That's my opinion on it all. I wish we could just do away with this emergency resolution. It doesn't make any sense to me. Especially when you got China building coal plants every week. A new one comes online that is not nearly as efficient as the coal plants in the United States or the natural gas plants. And we're basically giving over all of the production of everything in the world to China. We're just giving the country away. That's my opinion. And I could say a whole lot more about that because I've read a lot about it. But, yeah, anyway. Pollution, as far as pollution goes, yeah, I agree. I believe our water and our air and lakes, rivers, whatever, if you compared them today to what they were 40 years ago, they're way cleaner than they were then. I don't agree with, polluting things, but CO2 to me is not a pollutant. Just my opinion.
Anyone else? Do you need a motion? Do you need just a voice? What would you like?
Probably voice for the $1,000 expenditure.
Okay, so a voice vote for the $1,000 expenditure to work on our climate action plan. All those in favor say yes.
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 Opposed say no.
No,
You have your direction. Next is solar picnic table.
Yeah, this is probably more of a informational. There was discussion about relocating the solar picnic table from the North Mears Promenade to Goodrich Park. We had Catchmark take a look at what is currently available as far as Wi-Fi at the marina and what it would take to basically get Wi-Fi out into the park to make that solar picnic table fully functional. And the quote is just under $15,000, so I think staff at this point is thinking that, obviously, mid-year of the budget, probably not to move forward with that. And if we want to look at considering that for fiscal year 23-24, we could do that in February, March, April, when we get into the budget development phase.
To be clear,
guess
that's a one-time fee, right?
That, well, other than the, I guess the monthly subscription from Spectrum, because it's a Spectrum Wi-Fi that they then, and I know I'm not gonna do justice to the lingo, but they amplify it into the marina.
Yeah.
So there would still be that Spectrum fee, but my understanding is that this is a one-time cost.
I mean, the Spectrum fee we're paying anyway for the marina, right? Okay. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that 14,000 isn't like an annual service fee or something like that, so.
I don't remember council directing staff to relocate it. I remember it being suggested by some people on the council to move it. But I don't ever remember anybody on council voting on moving the picnic table.
Well, in fact, I thought that we had brought it up and decided to scratch it because we would have to pour a pad for it to sit on and a sidewalk, ADA acceptable sidewalk to get to it, and the expense was just way too much. I didn't
That's where
I
I
didn't
thought we
think we had
left it at
decided to
also,
move
but
forward with it.
I know there was a work session where there was a discussion, and I think initially there was no objection. And then I do know that it was brought up at a subsequent work session or perhaps at a council meeting, which I was unable to attend, where I think there was some opposition to the relocation based upon the cost. So I'm just, adding one more piece to the puzzle with that 14,675, 765, just to give you the entire
Yeah.
picture.
Quite frankly, the table was donated to us by the library, and they picked the spot that they wanted it to be, and I think it's fine where it's at. I would not be in favor of moving it regardless.
I'm in agreement with Mr. Connell.
Anyone else?
No, this price tag doesn't warm me up to the idea of moving it, so.
That doesn't include the concrete work, correct? That's
Correct.
just the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
So we have an additional cost above and beyond 15.
Correct.
I certainly want to go on record that I do support it. I think it would be much better used in the park. I think having Wi-Fi in the park is an important thing. I'd like to see it there. It's something I support. So next, informational items. Do we have any? Okay. Anyone? Public comment. Anyone like to make a public comment? Step up to the podium, state your name. You have three minutes.
Good evening, my name is Tamara Horn and I'm a resident of the city of Whitehall. I want to thank you, as always, for having public comment and listening to what the community members have to say. 3 days ago on MLive, I saw a new article that posted. The title is "Natural Gas Costs Forecasted to Skyrocket This Winter." In the article, they talk about how the natural gas is expected to spike at 29% this winter, and consumers' energy electric rates may go up as much as 14%. In light of that news, and considering in your meeting following this one, that the council members will be asked to approve paying $20,000 approximately in utility costs for the city buildings, I would like to encourage the city staff and council members to pursue an energy audit of city buildings. I know that there was a proposal that didn't work out, but I would like to encourage having new proposals from other organizations. This would help the city to save costs as rising energy rates are coming our way. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good evening. Again, thank you, as Tamara said, for having public come and speak and interact with you on these topics. So I wasn't really sure what I was going to talk about, but I wanted to respond to Mr. Hubler's discussion about the climate action planning process. And I saw the MML presentation, so he is correct. The cities themselves don't generate a lot of carbon emissions, but the communities, the homes, the industries, the businesses do as well. So typically what we're seeing with this movement is that the cities are showing leadership to get the ball rolling. And then with the community citizen coalitions, they kind of help execute that and kind of branch that out into the community so that you're not taking this whole thing on your shoulders. I do have to share with you that 2 weeks ago, I joined the Muskegon Legislative Policy Commission meeting, and they asked Jeff out from Montague to come in and share his climate action plan with them. Montague's plan is a 4-page Excel spreadsheet, 4 pages. That's all they use. And it's very simple, and I'm sure Jeff would be happy to share it with you. He brought several copies there. Then they wanted to hear from the Climate Action Council, our group, just to say how we've assisted. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Stop. I'm sorry.
Your phone's
That's
like
just
mine,
my
stop
phone.
doesn't usually make it
Yeah.
stop.
It doesn't allow, I'm trying. Did you get everything you wanted to say in?
Well, let's see. The only thing I wanted to add is that it was so uplifting that these council members were so excited about this and optimistic that they could have the community be involved. And they had representatives from each of the neighborhoods who were just eagerly ready to step forward. And I think there are people out there in the Whitehall community who would like to do the same. So it was just really refreshing.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Since we've got business to take care of in between, I will adjourn this meeting.
Business to attend.
Business to attend to. Get your photo taken.
You lose yourself in work there, Keith? I did. I'm wondering. Send him a text, see what he's doing.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't mean to wake you up from your nap.
No, it shouldn't happen.
Kick back in his chair.
How you doing?
Fairly
Fun yet?
Oh, you're gonna cheat and call this your meeting?
Guns, buddy.
Well, we can do that, but we usually have you guys come up and talk on the mic and do that.
I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to do that one.
It's okay. It's all right. We'll live with it. You can stick around for the other one?
Always.
I actually have to go after this one.
Oh, we can let him get away with that?
Busy? Yeah. As always.
Man.
Now seems to be a dull.
Sign, all right,
I'll
then.
sign it. I'll let you get away. Who's your
If it's
teacher?
slow for a little
Mr.
bit, we
Bunsen.
make
All
up
right.
for it.
I know, all of a sudden, oh my gosh, it's
Yeah,
crap.
we're learning about
You know,
just like
Steve
the
at the-
basics of government and how
At the Legion, if we
like all
uh,
houses of
take a
like
phone call or have our phone go off
federal
during
and
a
state
meeting.
government
Oh, yeah.
structure, divisions of powers.
I don't know if you want
We
to
operate
implement
a lot
something.
I mean,
They
Yeah.
got too, they're too big for their own,
Thank you.
they're too big for their own britches.
Yes,
Photo?
yes.
No,
Like I'm all set, thank you.
All right.
We can. It might glare a little, so I might have to angle you, but.
Yeah.
Wherever
We,
you
we,
think.
we need a group photo,
Oh, Lord.
so.
Council photo.
Whitehall Township.
Going up there at 7 o'clock.
Well, they had a big deal out there.
Yes, you get your own
Thing with,
portrait.
collectors.
We're gonna give up all our food production and make it into solar.
I don't know.
Well, I know, that's, I don't agree with that.
I don't
Huddle
know.
in the corner, or do we want to try?
as long as we don't have to go outside, so that
Yeah, unless we don't have to go outside.
40% of the total.
Okay.
I'm short, so I'm always in the front.
Go ahead, I'm short, and I'll be in the back. That way you won't find me.
They always put this in the front. Put it that way.
I'm like, nope, that's all in the back.
See what
Michigan.
the glare angle is gonna do.
You know,
Put it out in the
I got
desert
these
where
little
there's no.
solar
Are we even gonna be able
Or
to
do we even have to meet?
fit in on
Common
here?
sense here.
my little solar lights.
All of us in one picture, or
Mine
go
are
down in
not.
the garden room?
In the wintertime, they go off about an hour after dark.
Yeah, exactly.
They didn't get any sun during the
I'm
day.
gonna put them in the
Just gotta
shed
get
because
these
they're just
guys
sitting
on.
there.
You guys gonna be in the council photo?
Come on,
Yeah,
come on the far left, let's go.
well, we're on the far.
Four and three, or you want all seven across?
I need to get on the other side.
Yeah, yeah.
You want all seven across, or you want 4 and 3?
We might have to do 4 and 3.
We're gonna need.
Do we need to do an angle,
Turn like
or?
this, and those guys
Whatever
turn
you
like
wanna
this.
You
do.
don't want that angle, Steve.
I don't want this angle?
There you go.
Have to go. I'll let you guys figure out where you wanna stand. I'm gonna grab my other lens, 'cause I'm.
Oh,
How about you tell us where to stand? I think
Yeah,
that'd
that
be
works
easier.
better because you're
More
the one
productive.
looking at us.
bunch of
This is
guys.
our one time to tell council where to go.
You never know how
Is
those things
this
show
being
up in a
recorded?
Yep. Just the wrong spot.
Wrong spot.
Yes.
What is that? Oh, that's a mic. Yeah, right.
Brenda, tell us how to stand.
She went for the wide angle lens.
Are we gonna see this on YouTube tonight?
I think we need to get.
I'll be on mugshots.
Yeah, that stream's probably still
Go to that
live.
Facebook page once. Maybe
Okay.
people might get interested. It's all Muskegon County.
You had,
You about centered on this thing? No,
read
we
it.
got
No,
some
that
too
thing's
tall.
kinda shiny.
yeah.
So,
I know.
were you having problems with it? Did you see?
Well, I was, that
You want
other
us
one.
over in the corner more?
Corner probably
Yeah,
works
how
better.
about,
Okay.
yeah,
Let's
let's
try
try
to
to
go
go,
for shiny.
No.
If they're like
They would run out and be setting everything on.
and
right of it.
And you know what? I
Just
can
in
always
time, Brian.
Put the logo in there, so let's do that. So let's go to the corner,
Okay, to the corner.
To the corner, vanished to the corner.
to the corner. And then, oh, you're all right. And then, could we have, we got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, can, how, do you want them staggered
Really
more?
3 and 4 is probably good. Like
Okay.
3 in front, 4 in
Yeah,
back.
let's get 3 in front and 4 in back. And then,
Jeff's
so.
the next shortest
The
here.
spaces,
Yeah,
guys.
Yeah, Jeff, you get in between, yep, right between those two, right between Steve and
Don't you hug me.
Sean. Okay, there we go. And then,
Sean is trying to hide.
how do we
Have
do
you
this?
go
And then
little left,
Scott,
Scott.
you, Dick, you and Steve separate a little bit more so we can stick Scott Brown in between you two, yep. But in front, yep, there we go. And then Signga, you
Yeah.
move, and then Keith, you come out.
Yeah.
There we go.
Perfect.
There we go.
There you go.
Oh, I
there we go.
love it. There we go. All right.
Jeff, you're gonna have to turn this way a little bit.
Good idea.
Yeah, we already talked about that, the picture.
Oh, yes, and that's what we did before too, yeah, so you're great, Steve, Keith, good, Jeff, there, you guys nailed it right there. Cheese. Oh, we'll wait for her to.
Teeth.
We love Whitehall.
It's as good as it gets with the stash.
You're great, you're done
I
great.
just got done working 12 hours in the hole, so what do you think I'm gonna be happy?
You get instant pictures with that?
Right, yeah.
Or this.
Now, after the Christmas cheer, we'll be smiling.
Yeah, that's a good time for pictures.
Exactly. Let's go down to Pub 111 and take a picture.
Let's get official approval.
Yup.
I know, it's on my list
No,
too.
yup, no. Oh, aren't supposed to look at those pictures.
So you guys stick around, no, we'll grab them back. That's a nice
There we go.
Have any
Oh, yeah,
pictures?
that looks pretty good.
Ready? 1, 2, 3,
Not too
gone.
bad at all. Nice.
Now Steve's turn.
I heard looks good, so.
Have them go stand by the
Wall of Fame.
Fine with.
Where do you want me?
You want a flag?
Yeah, you
You
can
want a
solo
Whitehall behind
I
you?
walked out the door.
Where's,
It'll be close up for them.
where's the other pictures?
They're like just like a blue
They're
background.
just like, so
okay.
just,
Yeah.
yeah, just do the blue background.
So we look nicer than we really are?
Get a nice gray background.
10 minutes, I could actually walk home and turn around and come back.
You could. Get some exercise, stretch the legs.
You gotta look like you're having fun. We wanna see teeth.
But can you use some of that to fix the standards? Been a crazy couple of days. I've been bugging Will and Dan and Brian and just a lot of.
You can tell I don't use this one much anymore.
We can move over to a brighter spot, if that would work.
Yeah.
Over here? Brighter.
Try to make it so it doesn't. Still did it, didn't it?
It flashed.
What in the preview? It's on the wall forever.
Ooh, price came down.
You're right here. No, it's actually, we got the audit, and then actually, your first item of business. This might take a little while with the audit, and we got
Yeah.
some employee longevity awards. But if,
So we just.
I need to fix that.
Not like
what you can do is probably
changes are all fine.
right away with this public comment, when we get to that.
He said that, yeah.
Okay, all right, sounds good.
You might know who we are, I think this is a great idea, we're ready to pass it. Hey, wait, did you have to cut out?
Yeah.
Then you still got your.
Granddaughters.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is it band concert or?
Oral conway or red Montague, yeah. You know, we only got most of this last night. You don't believe the way it goes.
So if you guys aren't doing anything.
Exactly, that's where it was.
Wow. And Brad's here too. You can stay all night if need be.
I mean, moved my purse. So you said, not at all, I just plumped my purse.
You are item,
All right.
right down towards the bottom, 2256.
Put a piece of candy in my mouth so I won't talk anymore.
Does that actually work?
I don't know.
Works for the little kids.
Yeah, I'm young. At least I try to tell myself that.
30 years, Brian? That what he's got? Yeah. 30 years? And you're getting old, Brian. Holy lick. When did you graduate? Lies. Lies!
Put the barricade back up on.
Not yet. The guy on the south side was working on taking down a duck blind that was on his property yesterday. And he was talking like he had a line on that cement thing. That's where his property went to, and he was gonna tear up half of that cement. Some guy was out there in a boat, had parked his trailer there. He come back and this guy was cutting down brush and he was laying it on that cement thing, on his, what he figured was his part of it. I don't know if he had a survey done or what, but and this guy got really ticked off at him. This is what he told me anyway.
Oh, yeah?
Because I was down there talking to him. And he chewed him out up and down, and he said that he was gonna. So I don't know. I think, the way I understand it, is that the county can just say, this has been a public right of way forever, and we're gonna claim it as a public right of way, even though they own it. It's just like people that own to the middle of the road, you know?
Yeah.
And the county can just say, we're claiming this as a public access. And I guess they can do that.
Oh, yeah.
And they've got the lawyers and the taxpayer money
Yeah.
to fight it too, so I don't know if this guy wants to take them on or not, you know? Because I don't think they would have just done that if they didn't have some knowledge of how these things work. I don't think the county would just go stepping on people like that without knowing that they had a right to do that. That's the way I see it. I don't know what's gonna happen. I told the guy, I'm just gonna sit back and watch, see what happens. Because it's, go grab my popcorn and watch.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. We used it yesterday, so, because we have a blind across the lake, Hooker from what used to be Hooker Chemical, you know. And we've had one there since, I don't know, 78, since the late 70s. And they're okay with it. They say stuff coming out and give you written permission because then.
I know one person that disagrees with you, not me.
Say anything anyway. Exactly. And that way we keep other people.
The one that has
which is good with
the
that.
yard on Division, that's all
You know,
wild.
so-
Oh, yeah.
So they're good with that.
She was pissed.
That's what I said.
We went over across the lake, loaded it up, the line on the boat, hauled it back over, pull it out.
Shouldn't have been there in the first place.
Put it up in the
It was
water,
underwater,
take
you
it
couldn't
down
do
in
anything
November
with it
usually.
before. Well, you could have if you'd have wanted to do it from a boat, but
Yep, absolutely.
she realized she left that.
So we got a pretty good
sitting there.
relationship with those guys.
I'm gonna sell it
out
to
there.
back to her for a fee.
Probably
They're never gonna give us
$150 one
these
anyhow.
Yeah, it's probably at
have
least
permission.
my Christmas present.
They're not gonna do anything to stop us.
What'd you bring your camera lens to?
Hey, you left me a Christmas present, thank you.
So-
Oh, no. Nope, too late.
I might eat that later.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, that's right, Scott Flayhide. Right about now. 20 years ago? 20.
$28?
28 years ago, Scott died in Grand Haven. Tonight. When Scott Flahev got shot in Grand Haven.
28 years.
28 years ago tonight.
I didn't think it was that long.
Yeah, about now. Between now and, I think it was, I want to say, I think it was, yeah.
It was just
Scott Flahev, 28 years ago tonight. And the watch was 12, 13, and 94. That's what it says.
So it's 34 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was thinking it happened in my first tour of duty here.
Yeah.
Decades ago.
Yep. Wow. I was working ambulance that night. I remember the call going out and then everybody was talking about it. So. Man, it's crazy.
Time flies so fast.
Man, yeah, young guy too. He was good. He was a great guy. Started in Montague. Went to Grand Haven DPS.
I was just down in Grand Haven over the weekend and coming back. There's a small memorial.
Memorial where he got shot. Yeah, that's where he got hit. Yep, in the median. Yep, that's where he got hit. With a deer rifle. From the back seat.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I go to Grand Rapids a lot. See the sign.
Yep. Yep.
Hey, everybody ready?
Surely.
We're gonna have an opportunity to introduce them too, so that I guess we can. Maybe if you wanna do it right before board appointments, or, I mean longevity,
Okay.
perhaps. Just do a quick little intro of him as the DPW. If that's okay.
Yes.
Okay.
No. Wow, that took a long process.
All right.
Did it.
It's 6 o'clock. I call this council meeting to order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first up is the approval of the agenda.
I'll move for approval of the agenda for December 13, 2022.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions, comments, concerns? All those in favor of the agenda say yes.
Yes.
Opposed say no. Agenda is approved. Next, we have a special presentation, our annual audit presentation.
Thank you.
Should I?
Doug Bradeveld, partner with Bradeveld Hefner. We've been doing the city's audit for the last several years, and happy to be here tonight to present the results of the June 30, 2022 audit. And you should have the books or something in front of you to kind of show you a little bit. I'm going to have you page through a couple things and go through a couple slides and then see if you have any questions, or you can ask them as we go, no problem. First on page 1 of the audit report, the independent auditor's report. This is where we give our opinion after we perform all of our audit procedures, come to an opinion on the financial statements. And in the second paragraph there, it says the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the city. So that's a good, clean opinion, certainly what you want to have when you have an audit completed. The audit report, if you compare it to last year, looks quite a bit different than it has in the past, and that's because there were new standards that were implemented this year that we had to follow, and part of the standards are how the report looks and the content of the report, so it's a little bit changed around, but nothing new. So the financial highlights or management discussion and analysis on pages 3 through 8 are the next section. And this is management discussion and analysis. All I wanted to point out here was at the top of page 3, the financial highlights. It kind of gives the opportunity for the city to say what's going on in the city during the past fiscal year. You can see there's a lot of road improvements. The North Mears parking lot was done, the splash pad was completed, and that all good stuff going on within the city. And the next couple pages are pages 11 through 13 I wanted to point out. This is called the government-wide financial statements. Divided, so this is it's kind of a long-term focus. It's set up to look like a typical business would. It has all of your capital assets, long-term debt, pension and OPEB liabilities are all in here. I wanted to focus on the governmental activities column, which is the left-hand column on page 11. Governmental activities is all the activity of the city other than what's called the business type activities, which is the water, sewer, playhouse, and marina funds. So it's all of the general activity, the street activity, the capital projects activity. But you can see at the end of the day on the bottom of page 11, left-hand column, the unrestricted net position is positive 690,000. That's very good. Many communities have a negative unrestricted net position there, driven primarily by the post-employment benefits liability and the pension liabilities, which you can see in your city are up that column just a little bit. The OPEB liability is about 500,000. The pension liability about 780,000. So those are not driving it into a negative number, which is very good. And then pages 12 and 13, rather than try to explain this, I made pictures for you. There we go. So this is coming information from page 12. And what it shows is the expenses, which are the dark blue bar, compared to what's called the program or direct revenues associated with each of the major functions of the government. So general government, public safety, public works, culture and recreation. And you can see the general government and public safety and culture and rec have very little by way of program or direct revenues. Public works has a lot, and it looks like the revenues exceed the expenses, which is true because the street activity is capitalized, it's not expensed. So it kind of skews it a little bit, but part of the program revenues is the Act 51 money that the street funds get, and other contributions from TIFA or DDA districts that comes in through their street or parking lot projects in this case. And then just another, go the right way now, oops. This is just another pie chart of the governmental activities revenue and where it all comes from. You can see the 39% there is your property taxes, so the majority of it comes from property tax. There's capital grants, which was a little bit higher this year than normal. And then 13% from operating grants, which includes again your Act 51 street revenue. And then there's state shared revenues, about 9% of your total there. And then we'll keep going through the report, and I'll have a couple more slides on the general fund. But pages 14 through 17 are more the fund basis financial statements. This is more what you're typically used to seeing on a month-to-month basis when you see budget to actual reports. So on page 14, this is the balance sheet, and you can see the general fund in the left-hand column there. Just wanted to point out a couple things here. Right in the middle of the page on the left-hand column, the general fund is unearned revenue. That's your unspent portion of the ARPA money that you've received but have not yet spent. That gets recognized as revenue when it's spent. Unassigned fund balance is at a positive 763,000, which is good. I'll get a little bit more into that. And then the street money, I wanted to point out the major streets is at 576,000. Local streets is at 214,000. So they're both in good shape with a little bit of money to spend there yet in the streets. And then page I got notes to refer to here. So go to page 45 if you would. That's the budget to actual for the general fund. You can never get the page through it again. I'm making you do it at least once. So it's the right-hand column here, this is again just the general fund, but the right-hand column, you can see that's your variance. And the third line down there is your state shared revenue number, and you can see you have a positive variance or an excess over your budget amount of about 83,000. That's because the census finally got all caught up and taken care of, so you got an extra share of state shared revenue this year because your population did go up just a little bit. So you'll see continued higher amounts, but not quite that high because that was kind of a catch-up there. And then also you can see all of the expenditures listed out here. There's none of them over budget. So the staff did a very good job of making sure that the actual amounts did not exceed the appropriated amounts, and the department heads all do a good job of keeping a close eye on that. So there's nothing that we have to report to the state, because we're required to tell the state if there's any overages there. So then we'll keep going a little bit on the general fund with some more slides, just a little bit of historical perspective information here. So the property taxes, you can see, have just been steadily increasing, and there hasn't been a millage increase at all. That's strictly the taxable value going up. State shared revenue, the middle set there, you can see there was a little bit of a bump last year and again this year. This year is primarily that census adjustment I mentioned. Other is a catch-all, so that's everything's in there. There was nothing big or unusual there. Here's a little bit longer historical look at your property tax revenues. You can see it's just been a steady increase, especially the last 4 or 5 years there. And then this is expenditures by each function, again, within just the general fund. The public safety, you can see, took a bit of a jump there. There was some capital outlay, but there was additional officer added along with just regular salary and wage increases there. Recreation is a big jump there as well. That was primarily completion of parks work, including the splash pad that was completed this year, so the expenses took a jump up there. And then general fund balance as a percent here, you can see it's been tweaking downwards a little bit. There is a policy in place where I believe you have to keep it at 35%. It is just a little bit below that at the end of the year. So just to point that out, it's about 32 or 3% there. My rule of thumb is usually 25%, so your policy is 35%, so that's a little bit higher than that. And where I come up with 25% is that's 3 months worth of expenditures for the year. So you're still in reasonably good shape, but want to keep an eye on that at this point. And this again is your fund balance as a percentage of annual expenditures. I think we go to, oh, that was not the right button. There we go. Okay, we'll get into the enterprise funds here. Okay, if you go to page 18, this is where the proprietary funds or the enterprise funds, this is exactly the same information as what's in the business type activities on the first page we looked at. And you can see here, all of your funds, the 4 enterprise funds are the sewer fund, the water fund, the playhouse, and the marina. All of them at the bottom here have positive unrestricted net positions, so they're in good shape from that standpoint. We did this year for the first time implement recording the marina revenue a little bit different, so we match up the seasonal rent revenue over the course of the actual boating season. So at the end of June, which is about halfway through the boating season, there's some unearned revenue there. We're almost right smack in the middle of the page is about 50,000 of unearned revenue, and that's for seasonal slip rentals for the rest of the boating season after year end. And ticket sales, that's also for the summer season at the Playhouse. I think that was 0 last year, or almost 0 last year, because there was nothing going on at the Playhouse the previous season. So that's back up and running and hopefully going strong again. And then page 19 is the income statement for these enterprise funds. And you can see right in the middle of the page, there's income loss before other items, it's called. And you can see the water and sewer are in good shape. They had positive there. The Playhouse had a negative 72,000, and then the marina was a positive 17,000. The Playhouse has to be careful because of the debt that's outstanding, so there was some capital contributions that are coming in yet to help pay off the debt. There's 3 or 4 or 5 years left on that debt, something like that, for the big renovation that was done in the Playhouse. So just something to be aware of and keep your eye on there. And then this is just a picture of kind of the same information. But the sewer fund, you can see change in net position is positive. It's been right on the edge for the last several years, but came around good this year. And then the water fund, that one's looking good as well. There's a good positive change in net position there. So you always try to watch. It looks like it's really high, but you are trying to cover depreciation expense as you go through, or in the enterprise funds, just to make sure that you have future capital that you're able to invest there. And then just by way of a couple footnotes I wanted to point out, on page 40, this is your long-term debt. I mentioned that really the only debt, there's a very small installment note, and then there's in the business type activities, that's the Playhouse obligation that's still out there through 2027.
Can I
really,
ask you?
From a debt standpoint, it's not very bad at all, yes.
Page 19, that Playhouse amount that you're talking,
Yep.
that 72,000.
Yep.
How does that figure in with on page 20, the negative 16,000 at the bottom?
Sure, that's completely, well, not really, but somewhat unrelated. Page 20 is your cash flow statement, and that 16,000 negative is the operating cash flow. So you have negative operating cash flow in the Playhouse, and that's kind of the detail of it. It's really the 16,000 above. If you look about the 5th line down, you can see that exact same number there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the operations, and you can see there's receipts from customers, grants and donations, and then the payments to employees and payments to suppliers, or in this case, it would be those who are running the plays. So you have a negative 16,000, and then the rest is under capital and financing activities in that fund. So there's a cash decrease of about 72,000 in total. You do have cash and pooled investments in the Playhouse fund at the end of the year of 440,000 yet.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. And I did want to also point out your pension plan. That's a real positive for here on page, I think it's 48. So page 48, this is your defined benefit pension plan. And you can see the left-hand column this is reported here. Your year end is June 30, 22. This is reported as 12/31 of 21, because that's when the MERS, the Michigan Employment Retirement stuff, does their annual valuation. But as of 12/31, you can see right near the bottom there, you're 89% funded. So that's a real positive. Many communities are much worse off than that, but you're at 89%, which is great. So continue to work towards that. But I wanted to point out that this is reported as of 12/31, because as you might know, following your own investments after 12/31/21, the market did go down substantially through today. So that number could very well go up again next year. So just to point that out. And then if you're interested, the only other thing I was going to mention was the statistical information way at the back of the report. There's some good 10-year trend information on just a couple of statistics. That's put together by your city staff for your information, so you can enjoy that. Any questions I can answer for you?
On page 42, we were explaining the OPEB liability calculations, and it lists several assumptions.
Yep.
The first one is listing inflation at 2.16%.
Yeah, that'll go up, won't it?
Yeah, that's not what we're seeing today.
Right.
Is that what the projected like long-term future rate?
Yeah, you try to, the actuaries try to project that out as best as they can, but I would expect that's gonna go up. And the pension has the same thing. They, I think theirs is, is it 3.5 maybe? But yeah, those trends, if this continues how we are, they look out long-term but it'll creep up for sure. If it continues like this, yeah.
So
And that will of course drive your liability up.
So that would maybe make our future picture look a little bit less rosy if we put the higher inflation numbers in there.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I had.
I have one question, but it doesn't actually relate to the finances as much as it's probably a question for Scott. It's on page 9. Says that there are 2 facilities in operation for marijuana. I know where one's at. Where's the other one at?
The other one is in, how far do you wanna go back? The old Cook's Appliance Store, Sears, right at Peterson
Oh,
and.
yeah. I knew that was approved, but I didn't know if there was anything in there yet or not.
Yeah, they've been operational probably for 2 or 3 months now.
Oh, okay, because it still has a real estate sign on top of it, and,
That's gone.
Oh, that's been gone.
It's gone.
is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, the one there, it was still there last week.
Are they actually functioning as a retail location at this
I
point?
thought they were, but we can verify that.
I haven't seen any activity that looks like, no signage or anything, so. But,
That's all I had.
anyone have any other questions? So, thank you much for your presentation. Do we need a motion to accept this?
You do.
For a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept it.
Second.
Been moved and seconded.
Yeah, I'll take care of it.
Any further comments? Just a roll call?
Boys would probably do that.
All right, all those in favor of accepting the financial statements as presented, say yes.
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 Opposed, say no. It's been accepted. Thank you very much. Next is consent agenda.
I'll move for the approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions, comments? All those in favor of the,
I have a comment,
okay,
I guess.
thank you.
On Parks Master Plan, I guess I just don't understand why the Parks Committee would recommend moving forward on reinstating a dog park and a skate park, when in the discussion it said the national average indicates that our population would not support a dog park, swimming pool, skate park, etc. Just doesn't seem like it's in the best interest of the city to pursue something that national averages tells you will not work in our city.
Yeah, I can respond to that. When you look at those, in the master plan, the national standards, we exceeded a number of them and we fell below a number of them. So it's kind of a rough litmus test. It's not definitive. It's not to say, because we've got way more acres than a lot of the national standards. We have a lot of facilities that are well beyond the national standards. It's just kind of a self-check to see where we're at. There was a lot of discussion on it, and I think the committee at this point is focused on maintaining and improving what we have. But if we can add some amenities that will make the community more attractive, more livable, and the funding is available, then we could still move forward. You know, my old standby is that if it's in the plan, you don't have to do it. If it's not in the plan, you're not gonna be able to do it, especially with state funding, without going back through a lengthy process to amend it. So it's not a negative to have it in the master plan, but it's not a definitive that it will happen within the next 5 years. And that's what we kind of shrunk down to go with the 5-year. What can we do in the 5-year? Because the previous master plan is actually a 30-year plan. And if all of us can figure out where we're going to be in 30 years and what parks we're going to be improving, then we're really ahead of the game.
In the dirt.
Yeah, we'll be part of the parks.
We just want on top of the hill.
Thank you.
Yep.
I mean, I'd like to add to that I'm not all that concerned what the rest of the nation is doing, what they want for their community. I'm more concerned with what we want for our community, and there's been, as far as I'm concerned, a fair amount of people in this community that have asked for those things. And our job is to serve the people of this community, not to follow what the national standards are. So. All right. Anything else on the consent agenda? All those in favor of the consent agenda say yes.
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 Opposed say no.
No.
Okay, consent agenda is approved. Next, we have messages from the mayor, council, and city manager. First, I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce our newest DPW employee, Jason Church. Could you stand and show people your face? Newest member to our Howmet family team. How's that? Howmet, I said Howmet, didn't I? Oh, man! Yeah, no,
I was gonna say, I thought I left
I got
that.
out of there. Didn't even faze me. I hear it every day.
To our Whitehall family team. Thank you for coming to work for this community. Messages from council. Keith. Steve.
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
I guess I'd just like to say, this being our last meeting before Christmas, I'd like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. Enjoy the holidays.
Sean.
And a Happy New Year.
I have, I don't know, question. The old church on the corner of Spring and Division that was turned into a, I don't know, community center or
Event
whatever.
center.
Huh?
Event center. is the
Event
sign they
center,
have,
whatever
yes.
it's been turned into. Is that building approved for residential use?
It is a mixed-use facility. That zoning district does allow for event centers of that type as well as residential.
Okay, because it appears that there's an apartment in the back that people are living in.
Yeah, it's owner occupied.
Okay, that was, I just wasn't sure whether that was just something somebody was doing or whether it was approved.
Yep, and most of their fire and building code, they're in compliance with most of them. There's still an issue with that ramp out front, but that's minor, that'll be resolved.
Okay, thank you.
Jeff.
I'm good tonight. Thank you.
Scott, do you have anything?
Just as a side note, we did close on 1410 Lake Street. That's the piece of property that the city authorized to sell. There was a flurry of activity over the last 36 hours. Certainly want to thank Will and Prime Newhoff for almost dropping everything and making sure that that went through. The purchasers came from Ann Arbor, so I was even half hour before they arrived. I'm talking to them and emailing Will and There's just a slight glitch in the legal description, which we think will be easily resolved within the next couple of days. Brendan Newhoff has agreed to do that additional work at no cost. The property owners are ecstatic. In fact, I had to step out and I missed the presentation. One of the purchasers presented to Brenda. They have had their eyes on that property for last 20 years.
Yeah, 2010, I think she started.
So she had a little folder of, all the news clippings and pictures of them out there wanting to get that property, so that did close. Technically, it's an escrow closing. We'll hold on to their check until the legal description is rectified. But they were very, very cooperative, as were everybody who went the extra mile to get that done. So that's all I've got tonight.
Okay. I attended the Muskegon County Board of Commissioners meeting this afternoon where they voted not to combine the offices of County Clerk and Register of Deeds. It's been a very contentious issue for a while, but it was put to rest this afternoon. So that will not be happening. And Commissioner Bob Skolnick announced that the Muskegon had made the last or the final $5 million payment for the Harbor Point Park, so that now belongs to the city and will be further developed. So I think that's a good thing for the county, the city. Other than that, I wish everyone a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And then we have longevity awards. First up, 5 years for Nolan Trone. 5 years.
Boy, we have lots of equipment, don't we?
Shuffle it over.
Where would you like to do the presentation?
Wherever you would like to do that.
Okay, well, right in this area, I think
Okay,
is
that's
where
fine.
so I'll let you hand it off to him, and let me get out of here, okay, thank you.
Yeah, it says Nolan 5 years. It says Nolan 5 years.
Yeah.
That's good.
Okay, where'd it go?
5 years, thank you very much. Next up is Mr. Brian Armstrong. 30 years. 30 years. He doesn't have to pay over 38.
Yeah.
30, right?
Just,
Right?
wow, just a few years.
I think the walker's on back order, if I remember right.
I don't know, you want- oh, I don't know.
If I'd have known this, I'd have brought one.
There's that too.
Wait till you are old.
Brian, work 10 more years and we'll get you the sleeves to that jacket.
Good one.
All right. Next up is board appointments. Where are we with that?
We would be looking for a motion and support to accept the mayor's recommendations for the list of board appointments. I think that the only new ones are Laura Abramson and Amy Church. We had recommendation to replace one member and, well, actually 2 members. My bad.
I'd make a motion to accept the mayor's recommendations.
I'll second.
Any comments? Concerns?
My only comment is I don't like the way we do this, but it's probably in our charter to do it the way it's being done, so. I don't think it should be up to the mayor to appoint people to committees. I think it should go through the entire council.
It is going through the council at this point, right now.
More or less, yeah. You don't get to vote on each person individually, so.
maybe that's something that we should discuss in a work session. I'm certainly open to discuss how we conduct our affairs. If you'd
I
like to.
wouldn't be opposed to it.
I don't know how other municipalities do this. I know this is how we've done it for a long time, I believe.
And I do believe, and we'll verify, that it is in the charter that the mayor recommends appointments subject to confirmation by the city council. But we'll verify that.
I mean, I certainly welcome any council members' input as to who they think should serve on the various boards and committees. This is not a dictatorship. This is something that I would hope that these people are coming on to serve the community for their own pleasure of doing good for the community. I mean, if you think we should be doing it by a vote of the council, let's have a work session and see how that goes. Okay, so this can be a voice vote. Okay, all those in favor of accepting the proposed appointments, say yes.
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 Opposed, say no.
No.
Appointments are approved. Next, we have public comment. Anyone wishing to speak, step up to the podium and give your name.
I'm Jeff Cockrell, and I'm here representing Gilroy's, and I'm supporting what they want. And I would highly recommend that you do too. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no one else, we'll move on to old business. Do we have any old business?
No, sir.
Okay. New business, we do have. Ordinance 2210 propane sales.
I'll move ordinance number 2210, propane sales.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Does everyone understand what we're voting on?
I do understand what we're voting on, but what I'm not completely sure on, this makes it sound like it's something we're starting. Now, is this just because they want to do the filling of tanks?
Correct.
Because, I mean, pre-filled tanks have been sold at Wesco for years.
Yes.
So-
So this is more, it's the dispensing, more the sale that is being covered by this.
Okay.
So dispensing or sale? Or like the
Well,
pre-filled
the sale and
tanks?
dispensing.
Only when you're filling tanks. It still wouldn't apply to the pre-filled tanks? Or?
Correct.
Okay.
The pre-filled are still considered part of a use that is currently covered by general retail
Okay.
sales and services. Sale.
Now, what would be the criteria for the granting of a special use permit? How hard would that be to get?
There is a
That's what I
lot of
was gonna ask.
discretion that is left to the planning commission because that was a lot of the discussion as far as screening, above ground, below ground, the location. So by a special use permit, there's a public hearing and the planning commission has a great deal of latitude.
Okay.
So it's kind of it'll end up being more of a site-specific type of approval.
Mm-hmm. Very, very much a case-by-case situation.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Are they requiring any screening on this particular?
There's nothing specific in this, but that, again, would be up to the planning commission to say that we want, the white plastic fence, whatever,
Yeah.
the metal chain link, it would be up to their discretion.
I don't have any problem with it being done. but the visual of it,
This,
the big tanks downtown, and,
this was
you know, I'd like to see it hidden somewhere.
Dick, this was a pretty good discussion at planning. Steve and I were there, and that's one of the things we brought up. And initially, that we ended up pushing it towards the special use, just for what you're talking about. That way, we look at a site plan, we can figure stuff out, and whether we like it or not. So it gives, like Scott says, gives us a lot more latitude, and that's what we
Yeah.
wanted. So that's why it got brought to you guys this way. So, or to us this way.
Is there a particular interest by someone that's driving this, or just, this is just a general ordinance so that in case it comes up?
No, this is basically, in response to Gilroy's. They had installed a propane tank, which was not allowed either by special use or by right. So they did remove it pending well, they did go for a variance, which was denied. It just did not meet the criteria. Then it went back to the planning commission as a possible amendment to the zoning ordinance to allow them.
Where is this? I don't know.
Well, it's not there.
Both.
It was there one day and gone almost the next.
I missed it.
Yes, you
It's
did.
primarily back by their storage sheds, on the south side of.
I guess I went by the one day.
Pretty much right behind
Because I
Subway.
did see it.
The southeast side of their property. And that's where with the
Yeah, I
special use
haven't even
permit,
noticed that it's not
you know,
there.
the tank itself, you know, of all the downtown property, probably fits better with a hardware store and a lot of their, outdoor storage and their, sales outside versus some locations that the planning commission can just say, yeah, it doesn't fit in that location, so we're gonna deny it. There are specific criteria in a special use permit that have to be met. Subjective, specific criteria. So they still have to meet minimum requirements, and then planning commission can add additional requirements on that site.
So the sequence of events on here is if this council approves this, then what this is doing is changing our ordinance to allow them to apply for a special use permit, I believe.
Yeah, if council approves it tonight, it will get published in the next available White Lake Beacon, become effective 10 days after. And that will allow, pending the approval process, you know, the technical publication and all, that will allow Gilroy's to come back as early as the January planning commission meeting and apply for a special use permit. Because that will require a public hearing. And I communicated with the regional manager, and they had anticipated that if it's approved tonight, they would actually submit the special use permit tomorrow morning, because the 15-day notification window is kind of tightening a little bit. So that would probably be on your agenda for January.
Okay. So if the planning commission approves a special use permit, then they're allowed to go forward?
Correct.
It doesn't come back to council?
That is correct.
Okay.
But this doesn't become effective for 10 days, but they can apply tomorrow?
They could. It's kind of the chicken and the egg, or the cart and the horse.
Okay.
Obviously, the planning commission cannot approve it until this is effective, which would probably be
10 days from
the
today?
end of the month yet.
Okay.
So it's a very tight window.
Yeah.
Any further questions?
Out here.
Roll call, please.
Yep, Holmstrom,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Malali,
Yes.
Connell,
Yes,
Sickinga,
Yes.
Heidelberg,
Yes.
Salter.
Yes. Ordinance 2210 is approved. Next is resolution 2254, meeting schedule.
I'll make a motion, we adopt the resolution 2254, the meeting schedule for 2022-2023, and the work sessions, and the council meeting.
I'll second the motion.
Any comments? Nope. Concerns? Roll call, please.
Holmstrom,
Yes.
Malali,
Yes.
Connell,
yes,
Sickinga,
Yes.
Heidelberg,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Salter.
Yes. Resolution 2255 is approved. Not 2255, 2254. Next is 2255, city fees.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 22-55, city fees.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any comments, questions?
I have one question.
Yes.
Page 1.
Page.
What is hydrant rental?
That is a fee.
Dog's gotta pay it.
That is actually a fee that we charge the water department as well as Whitehall Township for the hydrants that are located in our community and theirs. And it goes back towards replacement and maintenance of the hydrants.
Okay.
Any idea how many we got now? Keith's over there figuring. I see the wheels
A lot.
turning. All right. I was just curious. And we have more going in, maybe? As I hear, they're looking at moving that line out. Or I hear just
Yeah, there will be quite a few more out in the township with the extension of Silver Creek Road, which appears to continue to move along.
good. Much needed.
What is a landlord affidavit fee and a tenant affidavit security deposit?
I got all the staff here, I should be throwing them all out, but I won't, I'll be nice.
Those look brand new.
Those are new fees. Currently, the state law allows a landlord to submit an affidavit that says they have no liability whatsoever for the tenant's utility bills. Which means we can no longer put it on the taxes, which is always kind of like our go-to in extreme cases. This prohibits us from doing that. What we have found is that we have at least one landlord that compliance has been an issue with that. And we have found that, I think we've got one that's approaching $750, $1,000 in delinquent, that the tenant's gone, so we don't know where to find them, and the landlord is absolved of liability of that. So what we're trying to do is tighten it down. Alyssa's worked with Will as far as the form and the process. That'll be a little tighter. And if a landlord wants to come in and say he is no longer liable at all for that tenant's utility bills, then we're gonna charge a $120 fee for that application. The tenant, on the other hand, is gonna have to give us a $500 deposit, which is higher than a normal deposit, so that we can at least recover our cost. Or not our cost, but the utility bill that nobody is responsible for.
Right.
So we're gonna make them responsible up front versus try and find where they move to and try and get a landlord to, pony up.
If the bill gets paid by the tenant, that's just a security deposit, the $500. So.
Yes, and they'll get that back when they move out, just like a normal security deposit. I think we had a number in the bills tonight, where tenants move out and we return all or a portion of their,
But the 120 is not a refundable deposit.
not
That's
refundable.
even if the bill's fully paid, the city still keeps the 120.
Yep.
So does if the landlord doesn't file this affidavit, then the tenant doesn't have to pay the deposit?
That is correct.
Okay.
I am concerned about some of the increases. The rental registration program in particularly is still a relatively new program in the city, and when it starts out with relatively modest fees, and then within a few years starts escalating quickly like that, with some of them more than doubling, that does give me a little pause.
Well, and part of that is we have switched from administering the rental inspection program that's now being done by Muskegon Charter Township in its entirety. And we receive a portion of that fee. So that's to cover a lot of their administrative expenses. And it is in line with, when they initially submitted their proposal, they had, the city administering it, here are the list of fees, and if we administer, this is the list of fees. So now that we've kind of switched, we have to adopt their their proposal, on the fees. You know, and part of it, the rental failure to show has been far too often. And a lot of landlords think, hey, for $35 I can avoid them, they think, from coming in and inspecting the facility. So, you know, it's a little more of a punitive, but we're trying to make it punitive to get compliance.
And that one's avoidable if someone's being halfway responsible on their end of the deal. The one I hear the most complaints about are the, well, there's the initial inspection fee, and then there's a follow-up inspection fee. And sometimes property owners will complain, well, the inspection process can be pretty fickle. I don't know what's going to be cited, and even if I fix everything that they tell me to fix, I still got to pay for the follow-up, so it's like a double whammy.
Yeah, the rental violation compliance inspection, a lot of that is for outright violations. And what we have done, and what I think Muskegon Charter Township has, the way they've proceeded, is we're looking at the immediate life and safety issues. Those are of concern. I know that Toby, who is the inspector, has cited people for minor infractions and has not gone back for the re-inspection. He figures he'll catch up on that in a 3-year cycle. The re-inspection comes where there is, you know, a blocked emergency exit. Those are the ones that we're focusing on. So, yeah, we could. I mean, the rental inspection code is extensive. But I don't know of anybody who's been hit upside the head with that book yet. So, you know, their concerns are justified, but not really valid, because we're not approaching it that way by any means.
Scott, I was just wondering on some of these facility reservations, parks and that, there's a couple of pretty good jumps in there. Is there something in particular that was driving these increases? Has there been problems, or?
Well, primarily we're getting the residential and non-residential. We've split them. There's a lot of people that claim they're residents that we're not entirely sure they are, or they find somebody they're related to that knows their cousin's nephew's brother that comes in and files on their behalf. So we're just clearing it. If you want to rent the facility, there's no distinction between resident and non-resident. And again, with a lot of our park maintenance, with the rental fees, we're trying to help add to the budget so that we can keep maintaining with the additional use. So yeah, there's increased costs, and then again, just kind of treating everybody the same.
Yeah.
Why is a variance request taken out on planning?
Because for some reason, that's the same thing as an appeal.
Oh, okay.
So we actually had it in there twice for some reason.
Okay.
And actually, appeal covers everything, because they can appeal an administrative decision by the zoning administrator, which isn't really a variance request. That's for use or for dimensional.
Okay.
All right, anybody else got questions? Roll call, please.
Sittendorf?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Holmstrom?
Yes.
Heidelberg?
Yes.
Connell?
Yes.
Malali?
No.
Salter?
Yes. Resolution 2255 is approved. Resolution 2256, commercial rehabilitation revocation.
I will move to accept Resolution 2256, commercial rehabilitation revocation.
It's a mouthful.
Second.
All right. Anybody got comments, questions?
We went over this.
I think we've gone over this.
Connell?
Yes.
Sittendorf?
Yes.
Heidelberg?
Yes.
Holmstrom? Brown?
Yes.
Malali?
Yes.
Salter?
Yes. Resolution 2256 is approved. Resolution 2257 57, street improvement bids.
I'll move to accept 2257. Second.
Second. Any questions? Comments? Nothing's needed? See people reading. If no one has any questions, roll call please.
Heidelberg,
Yes.
Holmstrom,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Malali,
Yes.
Connell,
Yes.
Sittinga,
Yes.
Salter.
Yes. 2257 is approved. All right. Employee manual updates.
I'll move to approve the employee manual updates as submitted.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions? Okay. All those in favor of the employee manual updates, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. It's approved. Last up is public comment. Last chance to say something this year.
No, not really.
No.
Is
Still
it?
got another one.
We got another one? We got another one.
27th or something like that.
Grumble.
Okay.
Last chance before Christmas.
Last chance before Christmas. Yes, sir.
Ryan Brito, Pitkin Drug.
Too late.
So earlier you talked about parks and skate park, and I've been one for that. When I looked at the vision some of you had a year or two ago with the splash pad, it's a great vision because it looks like it's been a great success.
I think so.
Sometimes you gotta take a chance and it seems to be working. As far as a skate park, I'm all for it. I'll be glad to help if you start any committees. I don't have time to chair a committee, but I'll be glad to work with a committee. I've actually attended Muskegon's initial meeting last year. They're in the midst of it. They're going full bore in it right now. So I encourage you to keep moving forward with that and having that vision for a skate park. Right here where that tennis court's at, skate park, maybe a couple pickleball courts. Yeah, awesome spot. We got something for kids 3 to 9 now with splash pad, but from that 9 to 14 range, nothing but, you know, gotta have something for those kids to do. So I'm all for a skate park. If you have committees, I'll gladly sit on them. But yeah, get rid of that tennis court, put a skate park and a couple pickleball courts there would be good. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Nothing else. No? All right, we're adjourned.
Just like that.
Yeah, it was. Where we earned our money tonight, did we?
There's your money tonight.
We earned our $25. Tuck that in there. Ay. It's ay. Oh.